I will call to order the Tuesday, March 7th, 2026 meeting of the Middleton Select Board. It is 5:02 p.m. A reminder for those that are in the room that this meeting is being recorded, so both your audio and visual will be recorded. We will start off with, and you have in your material this evening, warrant 2619 and facilities project warrant 83. And I'd ask the town administrator to walk us through that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Warrant 2619 dated March 19th, 2026. On the payroll side of things, totals in at $906,000. A few things to highlight: about $7,300 for the PHE grant. That's a public health excellent grant through the Board of Health. Also some overtime for MELD, fire, and police, as well as a little snow money down there towards the bottom, as expected this time of year. For bills payable, coming in a little bit over $2 million. A few things worth mentioning there. You'll see attorney fees under the town administrator line. That's a mix of both our typical legal fees as well as MBTA community specific costs. For accounting, about $38,000 for our munis license. About $18,000 for salt under the DPW line. Moving down a little further, part of the reason why this is pretty hefty on the bills payable side is the health insurance premiums coming in. On the school side, you'll see $263,000, as well as under the treasurer line, the assessment for North Shore Tech at about $300,000 and about $190,000 for health insurance premiums, as well as about $100,000 for debt service. For facilities project FP 83, coming in at $428,000. We'll see that probably continue to decrease a little bit as things tail off. Mostly design changes and then some outfitting and about $175,000 for IT related things that they're still trying to smooth out over at the public safety facility, which we'll have an update on later.
Okay. Any questions for the town administrator? If not, I'd accept a motion to approve.
Move to approve warrant 2619 and facilities project warrant 83.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? There is a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, if any? Okay, that passes unanimously. In both your package and via email, you have minutes. And let me read off the minutes that we will be approving this evening. We have February 3rd. We have February 7th. We have, including open session.
We have March 7th,
No, we don't.
February 7th, March 3rd.
Now,
We have February 3rd.
in the packet were the February 3rd minutes.
Oh,
Yeah, don't go by the list that's on the screen. There is some. So there's February 3rd minutes, there's February 7th minutes, including open session, February 17th, open session and executive session. We have March 3rd, open session. We do not have March 7th, open session. We will be approving those at a future meeting. So, are there any comments or questions on those minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve the above minutes.
I'll second.
And there is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, if any? That passes unanimously. Okay, next is the town administrator's update and reports. Town Administrator Salzback.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A few items around town. The comprehensive zoning review process has made some pretty significant progress over the last year. The planning board, however, is recommending to extend the process into the lead up for annual town meeting 2027. So that'll be May of next year. We do have town planner Anna B. Carmer here with us this evening, who's going to speak to that a little bit. She's been developing a schedule to include 6 or so forums moving forward that's going to basically break things down into more digestible pieces to allow for a little more public input. So Anna, if you'd like to come up at the table and walk through that a little bit and maybe talk about what that might look like.
Yes, thank you. So we kicked off this public process last summer with the planning board, and then this past January opened up the formal public hearing process. Over the course of the past year, and then particularly over this final review, we did receive a lot of public comments, and so I think the conservative decision from the planning board is really this draft of proposed amendments. There are several amendments that we are looking at, need a lot of analysis and further refinement. And so I put together a schedule over the next year to take the amendments kind of topic by topic. I will say, because our zoning bylaw, as many are, is extensive and long, it's kind of easier to digest one topic at a time and then take a look at each of the edits that relate to that topic rather than kind of just looking at the draft as a whole. So I propose, like Justin mentioned, 6 sessions over the next year. And at this point, too, I think that this type of project would really benefit from a more diverse group taking a closer look. And so I would recommend and am proposing that we put together a group of folks with representation from the Select Board, from the Planning Board, from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and from the Bylaw Review Committee to have a little bit of basically do the close reading on this so that we can be confident in bringing forward a draft that not only meets the requirements of, like, the legal requirements that our bylaws need to meet, but also serves the town and is in the town's best interest. So I expect that if you all agree with that approach, that I would help facilitate those meetings and we would continue to work through the draft that we've already started and gotten we're in a very strong position, I think, to be looking at these edits. So that would be my recommended approach forward so that we can continue to keep this as, it truly is a priority for the town to be making some of these changes. I don't think anything, it's a lot of work, but I do think there are real value in having a code that is up to date and reflects our current practice.
I fully support having a collaboration with the different people from the different groups. I think that's going to get us a really good product. I fully support that idea.
Okay.
And these will be public meetings, right, Anna?
Yes, they would be
Okay.
noticed and minutes and everything, yeah.
Perfect.
So you'd be looking for each group to, among themselves, to put representatives forward, I guess, to this group?
What would be the timeline of that?
So I'd like to start as soon as we can. So if you all could put that on an upcoming agenda, then we could get started on the sooner side. And then I am hoping that we can work in a manageable way over, I would say, 1 year we're looking at, and then hopefully have something, like I said, something manageable for next town meeting.
Okay.
So would you be looking at like one of our April meetings?
That would be
is
just
that your hope?
just to nominate,
Okay.
to nominate like a liaison or representative. Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be
so we need to have time to make sure that those representative committees pick so probably not our next meeting, but the meeting after that.
Yep, so if it's the direction of the board this evening, we'll reach out to those boards and committees, ask them to get something on their agenda, give us their designees, and then once we have a full suite of designees, we'll bring it back to the select board, and then you all can appoint them if they're agreeable.
Would we appoint all of them with the other board's recommendation, or would they just appoint their own, we would appoint our own?
It's your committee, so it's at your discretion.
So I think we would take the recommendation
Right.
of the others.
Of course, yeah.
But we're the formal appointee.
Okay,
Appointing authority.
okay.
Okay. So I don't think we'll be able to do this. We're probably looking at the earliest would be April 7th. Okay. Why don't we get, if the majority of the board members agree with this, why don't we move this to an April 7th meeting for the actual appointment, but I think you've got clear direction to saddle up and ride to the sounds of the cannon. Okay,
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
thank you, appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Anna. Beyond that, a couple other things to mention in the TA update. We're looking to move forward with sidewalk repairs in the Brigadier neighborhood. As you may all recall, that was something that had come up in a meeting, maybe 2 months ago or so.
That has come up in meetings for the last 5 years.
Yeah, so hopefully this is the last and final time. So Superintendent Goodwin and I were talking earlier today, and we thought it might be helpful if members of the board wanted to join us once the weather gets a little nicer, to maybe walk that loop and kind of lay eyes on the sidewalk. It seems like there is preference among the board to do something there in terms of the extent of what we do. I think maybe better informed by that walk. So the question being, replace all of it or go through and replace just the sections that are really bad. If there are areas that are still serviceable, hold on to those. Sometimes.
So I think I might have missed the previous meeting. It might have been the one that I was not at, that this came up. Do we have agreement on the trees?
So there seems to be consensus on the trees, and I asked Paul to put forward something that we could apply with consistency. So for example, if it's a tree within 15 feet of the curb, then it would have to go. The concern is that when you get into saying, well, that person can keep their tree, that person can't, that's where the kind of fighting seems to be coming from. So Paul's going to draft something up that we can use as a guideline.
Okay, good.
And apply broadly across the neighborhood. And then also, based on feedback from that walk at a to-be-determined date, an overhead view of the neighborhood showing what areas of the sidewalk are highlighted for immediate need of replacement, what areas we could probably get by, if any.
Well, those sidewalks are probably used more than any other sidewalk in Middleton. Surely on October 31st, they used more than any sidewalk in Middleton, but, okay. I'm glad we are moving to a final resolution on this. Thank you to you and Paul for getting this to the, I don't know if it's finish line or starting line, but thank you very much
Starting line.
for getting this to the
Between.
starting line.
Yep.
And let us know when you plan on doing a walk and board members want to participate in that.
Sure.
And then we'll have a plan for a future meeting that we will publicize and communicate. And I would recommend some type of communication with the neighbors there so they understand, so we're not
Blindsiding people. Yeah,
back to the starting line again.
sure. And full credit to Paul, by the way, he's really pushing the.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
So. As a reminder, FinCom and the Select Board are going to be meeting in a joint meeting upcoming on the 24th. That's one day immediately following when schools make their determination relative to their budget, which partly our fate hangs in the balance a little bit depending on what they turn back. So we'll have one day to turn around based on what their determination is to try to balance. So Jackie, Sarah, and I are working very hard on that. And the reading of the warrant, we actually had endeavored to do that day, but given some holdups with the language for the debt exclusion and MSBA projects, both for the elementary school and Masco, we're going to push that to a recommended date of Tuesday, April 7th. So mark your calendars if you're available.
And the 7th is a regular select board
Regular.
meeting anyway.
Correct. So we'll just do a reading of the warrant probably at 6.
So that, at that time, is that final and no edits are allowed, or is the purpose of that it's read and then there could be
Scrivener
edits?
errors could be addressed.
Yeah, so I'll distribute copies in advance, and if, as typical, and if the board has notes on it, I'll certainly take your feedback. If the board feels that the document is incomplete or needs something bigger to be changed, we have the time within our schedule.
I was just wondering timeline, it seems awful close to,
It's
town
closer
meeting.
than typical. It's the
Yeah.
MSBA language is really
Okay.
killing us. So.
as long as there's time, if there are edits, that's
Yep,
fine.
we have time. Currently, there are 32 articles on the warrant. Speaking of the warrant, it's expanded a little bit because based on feedback from the Saturday, March 7th Capitol meeting, breaking out some MBTA-related articles from the capital plan and some other items. So we're up to 32, and just a reminder to the public, annual town meeting is set to take place at 7:00 p.m. on May 12th, upcoming.
I mean, the moderator will still, in her ability, do some consolidation of, for vote purposes.
Yes.
Consent on it.
The
consent
consent
articles.
calendar.
Yep.
We're holding a firm date of this upcoming March 23rd for the public safety building move, as I had mentioned in the communication to the board. There were some delays relative to some tech. There was a part that Okers needed, who does some of the security elements over there. And so in speaking with the chiefs, we agreed rather than rush to get them in and have the building not where it needed to be, we'd rather take the extra week. So we took the extra week. We met today. We're fully on target. Once again, thank you to Building Commissioner Fitzpatrick, who has been going through these buildings with a fine-tooth comb and identifying any issues that may obstruct us from obtaining occupancy. So everything there is good to go. One more small item, but it's going to get rectified this week, so we'll be good to go. The building committee is meeting tomorrow night, and just a reminder, just because these buildings are wrapping up, they're still probably going to be meeting for at least 6 months to get us through building closeout. And we still have a lot of site work to do for anybody that drives in to see these new buildings. It's a little messy now that the snow has melted, so I think it really kind of shows how much more we have to go outside. And now that the frost is gone, they'll be getting into that in earnest, so just keep an eye out for that as you're driving in and out. The posting for the Assistant Council on Aging Director is live and up on the website, so if anybody is interested or if you know someone who might be interested or a good asset to the community, please encourage them to reach out and put forth their materials. And also applications for the summer camp junior counselors has also been posted. And just a reminder as policy, which Jackie reminded me last week, we request that the young adults please reach out to us and apply directly. We don't want to hear from your parents, we want to hear from you. It's a good learning opportunity.
Amen.
So, and that is everything for now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Any questions?
No, I just wanted to say, because our front yard is still being under construction, people may not be fully aware that this building is open. We are open, the Council of Aging is open, is running activities. So if you are a senior and you want to partake, don't let the mounds of dirt in our front yard dissuade you from coming. It's a beautiful building inside.
Thank you.
I had one thing, Brian.
Sure.
Do we have a start date for the library director, and is the contract in place and everything with her?
Yep, so she was actually in the building today, and Jackie can kind of speak to the details there a little bit.
Yeah, great question, Jeff. So her contract was ratified by the trustees at their meeting last Monday. So that's an agreement between her, the trustees, and the town administrator. And so we're just collecting signatures on that agreement, but we are on track for a start date of March 30th. So she will be here 2 weeks from yesterday, which
Great.
we're very excited. And for those that may have not been following along, we're going to be joined by Olivia Gaddy as the new director over at the Flint Public Library, and we're very excited to welcome her. And as I indicated to the trustees last week, we are going to have some sort of community open house welcome reception, date and time to be determined, but I'll share that with the board members when it's available.
Thanks.
Of course.
Thank you, Jackie.
I just have one couple.
Sure.
So on the Brigadier funding, is there any time issue with that as far as,
It's Chapter 90 funds, so we have some flexibility there.
okay,
Yep.
and for sure not to need the Thursday after the 24th for, the joint FinCom?
Well, we're still
With
meeting.
1 day, I mean, is there a possibility we might have to bring that date back in?
For
For the 26th?
oh, do you
For the
mean
Thursday.
push it back?
No?
No, he's saying we have the 24th on the books next week, and
Yeah.
then we do not have the reading on the warrant on the 26th, its original date on the schedule.
Oh, correct, yeah, the 26th has been pushed to the 7th.
And we'll be able to tie it all up on the 24th, even though it's a quick turnaround for
Yeah,
schools?
we should be good.
Thank you.
Anything further?
No, thank you.
Okay. We're going to move to number 2 in the agenda. We have with us this evening Essex Sports Center that is here for a new entertainment license. And we have with us this evening David Stubblebean?
Unfortunately, Stubblebean's gonna make it.
Okay.
They sent me in their stead. My name's Dan Carn, I'm the general manager on the facility.
Okay, sure.
So yeah, we're applying for an entertainment license to service 5 arcade games. One thing we've seen in recent history in the building is a upkick in damage, and a lot of it has to do with the younger siblings running around in the building. So we figured if we could create a small arcade space, skee ball, basketball shooting machine, claw machine, just to keep these folks busy, these kids entertained while their brothers or sisters or whomever are out on the ice, and just create a little bit of passive revenue in the meantime.
Okay, understood.
Great idea.
And you have this space that's detailed for all of this, and it's, I assume, within some type of line of sight to where staff are, and
My office actually sits directly behind, well, technically in the arcade space, but directly behind. So
Got it.
there's somebody at my office. If the building's open, there's somebody there 50 minutes of every hour. The only 10 minutes they're not there is when the ice needs to be cut. We also will have a front lobby attendant starting next week, who will be also part of the responsibilities to supervising that space. So plenty of supervision available.
Okay.
We've converted an old office space down to this arcade and a smaller office to serve our need.
So when you walk in,
If you walk in, go to the left like you're heading to the turf field, the old turf field office is now the arcade space.
And unrelated to this, but to the facility, we are no longer having the parking overflow issues that were happening before there?
No, so we've cleaned a lot of that up, a lot of thanks to Essex Tech for their assistance with that. A lot of it has come down to the way that we've scheduled the facility. Really, our major impact problems with those occur over about 10 to 15 days, which is when St. John's Prep or when Essex Tech host a home game on site. Generally speaking, the rest of the year, it's very manageable. I've been involved in,
Especially when this tournament's going on?
well, so our tournament business has been turned down drastically. I've been involved in the building for the last 5 to 6 years, between two management companies. I originally was part of the Fieldhouse Management Company, and I was brought in after the issues began to help fix those issues. I have a background in public safety. I'm a firefighter in a local community. So working with both the chief and the captain to really make sure that we had all of our ducks in a line and our T's crossed. And I think we've come miles from where we were then.
Good, I haven't been hearing the volume of complaints like it was before, so. Okay.
I actually spend a lot of time up there having grandkids.
Playing hockey up there?
I gotta stay in shape, Brian.
well, and I know I've been up there a few times. I know the prep has helped out with their shuttle, and when there was overlap, being up there, and you're right, it was managed. So
All the stakeholders have really come to the table to do what we need to do to try to improve the situation.
big help. Yeah.
We're currently getting ready to set, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we're getting ready to set our winter 26, 27 schedule already. For those that don't know, high school hockey in the Commonwealth ended Sunday, and we're already talking about next year. So we are going to have a little bit more of a concrete plan as we continue every year. It gets a little more solid.
Understood. Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to extend a entertainment license for the Essex Sports Center on, is it 18 Manning Ave? What is it?
15.
15 Manning Ave.
Okay,
Second.
there is a motion, there is a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, if any? Okay, that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is a discussion around a license agreement with the Middleton Food Pantry. So, because this is a food pantry, let me set the table for the conversation. So, and I know there's been a lot of comments, including unfortunately a lot of comments out in social media about this topic this evening. First off, this is a municipal complex, and the Middleton Food Pantry Incorporated is a not-for-profit organization. And as such, there needs to be a license agreement if that organization is going to be operating within the confines of this building. There was a belief at one point that it would be a lease agreement, but our council has informed us it can't be a lease and it has to be a licensing, because we're actually licensing the space. So what I would like, and I know in the package this evening, there is a draft document that I believe our council has put together. Justin?
Correct.
Okay. One of the things that I would recommend, if this board is okay, is very quickly after this evening's meeting, that the executive director of the not-for-profit, plus member or members of the board of directors of the Middleton Food Pantry, as well as myself and the town administrator. We set some time to sit down and finalize what the license looks like, and also make sure that we are all aligned on kind of rules of the road for operating within the facility. You know, the newness here is we're in like week 3 of operating this building. We're still working the kinks out. And I think we need to figure out around hours of operation, what it looks like, and some of the language that's within the draft license agreement. I think we can do this very quickly, and then bring back to this board for a very quick finalization vote and signature. It'll be this board that actually approves the license, because that's where the authority is aligned. So I don't know, first on that point, if there's any comments from board members. There will be some requirements, like you have to have insurance, there'll be liability requirements and items such as that, that you'll have to follow, or anybody, if there was a different not-for-profit that was coming in to do what you're doing, would have to follow as well.
You know what the formal name of the 501c3?
Is it Middleton Food Pantry
Yeah, it was
Incorporated?
something different.
Middleton, Massachusetts Food Pantry Incorporated. Okay.
Because there's another Middleton, Idaho, I believe.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Oh, my buddy lives in that town. We were there first.
I think there's an Idaho too, though.
Really?
And others have too, and called us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
after the
someone
fact.
else just
Did
sent
they
money
send it
to
back?
Idaho.
We didn't hear back from them after that. I didn't pursue it.
Okay. Well, this Middleton existed before that Middleton did. My buddy that lives there, I tell him that all the time. Okay.
Is it okay if I say one thing related to the food pantry?
Sure, and I just asked if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Rich Mollison. I'm Colleen's husband.
Okay.
I'm on the board of the food
Yep.
pantry now. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that the reasons why we became a 501c3. I know there's been some talk about some different things. We've had employees of companies approach us and say that their company will do matching, and we didn't have a tax ID for them because we weren't incorporated. We had Bosticks wanted to donate $5,000 to us. Salem 5 wanted to donate $10,000 to us, and because we weren't a 501c3, they backed off and we couldn't get that funding. So we're leaving money on the table by doing that. So
No,
that's the sole-
I appreciate that. I think there was maybe some confusion of what did it look like? Was it you were going to be kind of like the Friends of the Flint or the Friends of the Council on Aging, which are both actually a 501c3, or were you becoming a 501c3 that would,
A standalone.
yeah, like kind of like a standalone instead of an organization supporting an existing structure?
Yeah, I mean, our thought was 501c3, but.
I mean, either way, you would have been a 501c3, but I,
It was just a name, it was just a
Yeah,
title.
when
Yeah.
I first named it, I didn't realize that, like, Friends was the name that everyone was going under. I just thought, like, they said. come up
well,
with a
it wasn't
name,
really
so
so
I
much about the
thought-
name, but I think it's more about the process. Like, so for example, the Friends of the Flint Library, it's a 501c3. They have their own board of directors, similar to what I assume you've set up legally and annual reporting and then a 990 report. I'm the CFO of a not-for-profit out of San Francisco, for example. But the difference with the Friends of the Flint and the Friends of the Council on Aging is their mission, so to speak, is they raise dollars and they donate dollars to the town or to the library, in the case of the COA, to the Council on Aging, to support programming, equipment, supplies, capital items. So we weren't really sure when this was all happening, if that was the model you were approaching, or if the model was, we want to be like the whole kit and caboodle, so to speak, like a lift and shift, and which I'm gathering that's what you have done. You have created a 501c3, and so.
It had nothing to do with separating from the town.
No, I get that,
It's just,
But it
you
sounds
know,
like
we
the
were-
Friends and the library are just almost one in the, like, one's the fundraising piece and one's the
Well-
library piece. We're kind of all rolled into one. We're the friends of the food pantry and the food pantry. So that money's just for the food pantry.
Because, the Friends of the Flint do not run the library. Your organization will both run the food pantry and raise money for the food pantry, all in one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I should also state, for this to be a legal binding license, there needs to be remuneration. I'm recommending $1 a year. That can be either in pennies or check or nickels.
There are no pennies anymore.
Yeah, the pennies are probably
There's a
worth more than a
shortage.
penny. And that's more of a legal process. I know there was a lot of back and forth on this. I think part of the licensing discussion that we'll have is, again, kind of the rules of the road, and part of that will be, and you'll see in the draft agreement, will be things such as, maintenance of your space, the cleaning of your space, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I'm expecting that will be just an annual amount. I think we'll also talk about what is the length of the licensing agreement, how you all could opt out if you choose to opt out, how we as a town can opt out if we choose to opt out. So we're not using the word lease, but don't tell our attorneys I said this. It's going to sound like a lease, but it's a license.
So Brian, if I may, so
Yeah.
there has been talk of a rent substantially more than $200 a month or whatever, more than $1. And that's why I think there's people here, because they heard about that, and that was real, and that was discussed. And I'd like us to take a vote. We don't have to do the whole agreement, but I'd like to make a motion that whatever the agreement is, that the rent will be $1 a year for the first term. I think we owe that to the people that came. I think it's unconscionable for any other amount, because we asked the citizens of Middleton to fund this project, this building, and we listed what was going to be here: Council on Aging, food pantry.
I'd also state, Jeff, at the time when that was being devised and designed, the plan was the food pantry would be a Town of Middleton-run food pantry that would be operated in the manner that it was operated previously, or would be operated by the Council on Aging staff.
I don't think that makes any difference to the people
No,
that
no,
come
no,
and use
but-
it, and
no,
the people
I
especially that
understand
donate
what
to
you're
it, that they donate money, they already pay taxes for this building, and they don't need to pay rent for this building for something like that and pay taxes. I feel strongly about this. I brought it up at our February budget meeting.
no, I know.
And my
And-
motion is that whatever the agreement is, the rent is $1.
Okay.
Brian, can I
Sure.
say something? So on that note, I understand where you're coming from with that. But I guess where I stand with how we're at this spot right now, with what Jeff's saying, that there's so many people here because of social media, and we were gonna recommend $200. I never heard from any of these guys $200. So that's social media at its best. Second of all, going forward, I think, for me personally, and I'm going to speak for just myself, I guess my alarm with that is the fact that we didn't know that Middleton Food Pantry was going to become its own entity until it was there, when we were sitting in there. I had never heard anything about it. So to be part of the community, the way Frank Leary sitting right there, the way he established this organization was for the town. I can tell you, Frank, if that was what his total intent was, he would have been up at that town administrator's office every day, and Eileen's office, to make sure everybody understood. So we have to have a clear line of communication. Without communication, this partnership is not going to work.
Yeah, and
So
I
we
think,
have to have
and that's why I said,
partnership
and that's why I
in this.
said, Debbie, that I think as part of the licensing agreement will be the rules of the road, expectation
Yes.
of the not-for-profit of what the town's responsibility is, and the expectation of the town of what the not-for-profit's responsibility.
And it
And I'd
should
also
be in
state
writing.
that, I know right now, I think you operate a Friday afternoon for a certain number of hours.
Based on space
Yeah,
constraints.
so I'm assuming the plan is probably more hours than you operate now. Now, it's not gonna be Monday to Friday, 8 AM to 5 PM every day, I get. So I think there also needs to be expectations around like hours of operation and understanding after you get operational here, you may wanna amend your hours because those hours just don't work, or folks that, and I think some of the other, of understanding is, when Frank created this, and brought this to the town, there was an expectation of anybody in town that walks in that door and has a need, they're gonna walk out with their need fulfilled. And I'm assuming that's the exact same model. But because this is no longer a food pantry operated within the confines of the town by the town, albeit with Frank standing it up originally, it was a town organization. On paper and in legality, it was a town organization. You're a different organization, so I assume you are creating some type of rules and processes, and you may be in process on that, and, I think part of that we would want to see, what do your rules look like and so forth. It's not for us to make your rules, those are your rules, but I think those would have to be part of the licensing agreement going forward.
This is still a town organization. I'm running it the same way that Frank has run it. The 501c3
No, and I,
was made basically to protect everyone, to protect this organization. This is going to be a growing food pantry now that we're in this beautiful new building. We're going to have more people coming here. We have more parking here.
we actually have parking here, you didn't have any parking where you were.
You didn't have much.
There's no stipulations, even though they fill out a form saying, what their salary is or what they can afford. I don't look into anything.
So
don't
I
turn
would
anyone
say,
away.
and again, the difference between what you had just said is this is no longer a town organization. It's within a town building, but it's not a town organization. And that's why I started in the beginning of this discussion of using the example of the Friends of the Flint and the Friends of the COA, which, to Costa's point, is an organization that fundraises and helps fund and support the supplemental support of the services in those two programs versus the model that you've designed, which is you are fundraising and operating. So it's the only thing that's town related is it's actually within a building that you're licensed to be in, but it's not a town, for legal purposes, as you've devised it, it's not a town food pantry. Now, for anybody walking in the door and getting services, they're probably going to say, well, I'm being supported by the Middleton Food Pantry. Now, that's actually illegally named, so they are being supported by that, but it's not a town of Middleton Food Pantry for legal purposes. And I think our council has been very clear on that, the way the model has been designed. And if that's the model you want to operate under, that's why we have to get to a licensing. If it was a Friends of, like Flint or COA, it would be a different process.
Think about it.
And we could talk about that when we sit down in the licensing agreement. Here's what I want to do. I want to make sure anybody in Middleton has a need and they walk in the door, whether it's
Right,
a
absolutely.
COA-run organization that you guys are fundraising and supporting, or it's an organization that you are operating that's within our building at a grand total of $1 a year, and we continue to support. And there are going to be organizations that come to us very regularly that donate to us, as there were folks that donated through Frank and others, that if they come in and they want to donate, my recommendation is please write a check to the Middleton Mass Food Pantry Incorporated. By the way, it's a 501c3. We'll continue to do that. We'll continue to promote the food pantry for our residents that come in, whether it's somebody new that's moved into town or somebody that's fifth generation here, regardless of their ability to pay or not to pay.
May I say something?
Yeah.
I'm responsible for that social media post. I don't use social media a lot, Justin, I appreciate you reaching out. I think it was really important for residents that pay taxes here to understand that it was not only just a licensing discussion, and I misspoke in that and said it wasn't just licensing. It wasn't licensing, but it wasn't just licensing, it was charging rent. And I think that as a volunteer at that food pantry, to watch the work that all those people do, and to see those people who come in and humbly accept food from us, to take more than $1 is taking food out of their refrigerators and off their pantry shelves. So I commend you for coming up with $1, because I know the state of Massachusetts does allow you as a town to provide space and resources to a nonprofit, as long as they're providing resources to the community, and there is no better human service than food, so I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, no, it's what I do for a living, so I appreciate that.
So Brian, I made a
So
motion.
there is a motion that's on the table
I'll
for
second
$1.
that.
There is a second. Is there any further discussion on that?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah,
One
sure.
thing.
Go ahead.
Is there, understanding, having a 501c3 of my own, is there anyone in the offices planning on taking a salary from this at all?
Not as right now, no.
Because I think that, in essence, might fly in the face of what Jeff was saying, as far as, charitable donations from people in town.
Well, this is,
I don't want to start
I
a
mean,
drop here, but
I'll go back to my
I would have a
previous-
problem with that.
I will go back to my previous comment of friends of versus an actual 501c3 that is operating. And I think, here's what I'd say. When it was operated within the COA building, the old town hall, there were dollars that Frank and others were raising. There were organizations that came to the town and wanted to write a check. Let's be honest, some of these organizations were like, hey, we're before the Board of Appeals, but we'd also like to donate. Thank you very much. It was all for the general good. There were members of this board that wrote checks and others. But there were also dollars that were coming from the town. There were volunteers that were working there. There were COA staff that were involved there. There was dollars that were spent by the town. If, as this organization sits today in the model of, I'm viewing that you guys are going to raise your dollars and operate as such, and our investment in this as a town is going to be the space, the utilities, the lights, the heat, the air conditioning, and other items that are related to that. If the point comes that you're not able to raise the volume that's coming in the door, then I think there's an obvious discussion that we should have about sustainability. And that's, again, part of what I want to have as part of this licensing agreement. I want to make sure that you guys are able to succeed but be sustainable. During COVID, the volume of dollars that came in to be contributed were huge. A lot of folks were seeing online what was happening on food insecurity, lines at food pantries in cities, towns, and everything in between. So, great. The dollars were raised were very large. I hope folks continue to be focused on that, but sometimes food insecurity is not always focused on by the general public. And if it is, it's by a handful of folks. So I would like, again, and we can talk about this, is it a Friends model? Or is it a full operational model? And if it is a Friends model, then I think it's incumbent upon the town that there are certain functions of that food pantry that we will be responsible for, like certain staffing, certain support. We're going to be hiring a new Council on Aging Assistant Director. I would expect what I would want to see in his or her role is if this is a town-run food pantry, he or she would be managing that. We're not going to have Frank or you forever that are going to be operating that as it was operated before. That was Frank's baby. It still is.
Still is.
But if the model is a Friends, then we want to plan accordingly. And if the model isn't going to be Friends and you're operating everything, I guess we plan differently. And that's what we'll talk about.
I think it's the model that they have chosen, I don't have an issue with. I think that's ultimately a better model. My biggest concern is the organization being able to sustain and grow the hours of operation. You know, you were limited because of the facility that was available to you. Now there is a much better facility, larger and, you know, with refrigeration, you know, et cetera, parking. So, you know, in terms of the licensing agreement, you know, my primary concern is, you know, working with, you know, Middleton MA Food Pantry so that they can sustain an operation that's open more than one afternoon a week.
Good point, Costa.
And so, and I've got some ideas on that, but we've got a motion, and was there a second?
I
that was
did.
made? Okay, we have a motion and a second on memorializing the dollar annual
Right. Fee, I guess.
fee. I'm not going to call it
License fee.
rent, licensing fee.
License
Thank you, licensing fee. Okay, any further discussion on that before we move to a roll call on that? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, if any? Okay, as it comes to sustainability, let me give you my thoughts. So there is a little north of 260 some odd thousand, plus or minus, that are sitting in town coffers now, that are sitting there. My recommendation to this board is going to be this, so, and I want you to hear this, and we can talk about this, is I want those dollars to be utilized for food, supplies, equipment. Equipment could be, Frank, hold on one second, let me just get it all out, and then you'll be the first one to answer. Food, equipment, supplies, and equipment could be refrigeration, could be storage shelving, could be carts, that if you decide you're gonna have, you know, curbside, or you want to deliver to people's homes, whatever it is you want to do. Vouchers and gift cards. Because you may have somebody that comes in, you see young mom there that has need for formula, and the formula that they need you don't have on the shelf. Here's a gift card to Walmart or a gift card to CVS. That's what I want the dollars to be used for. I'd also state, while you're fundraising now, my recommendation to sustainability is you take your fundraising and you save it. And you use the $260,000 in totality. So instead of saying, well, we're going to use some of our fundraised dollars and some of the dollars here. So in essence, pay that down very quickly at the same time that you're fundraising. Now, for the organizations that Frank has been the forefront on in fundraising, that's going to be your lifeline to continuing to fundraise. The other organizations that have come to the town that maybe didn't even know we had a food pantry that said, I'd like to make a contribution, or we've had several families in town even long before we had a food pantry that every year were even donating to the police department or donating to the Council on Aging, and once they learned they continue to do so. When organizations come in like that and want to do something food related, my recommendation is the town is going to say, well, we've partnered with this not-for-profit. So again, you can build your reserves to get to sustainability. We can pay down the $260,000, and those dollars will be used for everything you would need to make this operational. Equipment, supplies, vouchers, gift cards, equipment. And I think the only time that the town has said no to an expenditure out of that was the time that it was an expenditure we couldn't legally do, which was for some legal fees for the stand-up of your not-for-profit. Other than that, I don't think there's been a time that the town accountant or you as a town administrator or your predecessors have said no. And I would say all of those come through this board. You saw me signing my name tonight. Every expenditure that happens to this board, these 5 members approve it, and then we sign it before it can go out. I can tell you, as a one member of the board, there's nothing that I would say no to if it's food, equipment, supplies, vouchers, or gift cards.
Great plan, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, does that, and then, again, yeah, and then I'd be happy to be one of your first contributors.
Can I
Frank,
ask?
hey, hold on, I told
Yeah,
Frank he could
yeah,
speak
go
for us.
ahead, Frank.
Frank, you don't have to get up, you can stay seated.
Get up because I want to see how handsome you guys are. I can't see too well. I can't hear too well.
Frank, watch out, there's a cord in the middle there.
Yeah,
my
don't
friend.
trip over that cord, please.
No, I will not. I'm gonna sit in the chair,
Okay.
okay? Then I won't fall down. I'm here tonight primarily to retire as director of the food pantry. That's my purpose for being here. And to turn the reins over to the capable, the intelligent, and the charming and devoted Colleen. And her husband is a great help too. A couple of things I just want to tell you a little bit. I'm lived in this town since 1960 at the same address. I like to be called Gorgeous Frank. I've had a great life. I'm a BC guy, you know. I got a gold key with Billy Bulger, if you ever heard of him. And I worked for General Mills for 10 years and ran 2 divisions for them on the East Coast. I think the funny thing about that, I made a lot of mistakes in my life. And one was they offered me vice president in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You know what this dumbass did? I turned it down. One mistake. But, you know, I had my reasons.
Well, the town appreciates you turned it down because you stayed here.
So in any event, I got involved in education. I've been taught in every level of education. Started in Durham, graduate school, hotel and restaurant management was similar to my job in General Mills. Taught at Southern New Hampshire College, marketing, sales, advertising, basically how to make friends and influence people. And then wound up at Northern Essex Community College teaching micro and macroeconomics. I started the student newspaper, weightlifting club, health club, so I've done a lot of different things. But the educational part, I was on the Masco School Committee for 9 years. I ran in this town in my 80s for elementary school. 3 times I ran and I lost.
Voted for you each time, Frank.
So I had a hell of a good life.
So Frank, you forgot to add that you were Santa Claus at church, because both of my kids thought you were the real deal.
I was Santa Claus, and one year I saw 500 kids. I also give out carnations at various times during the year. But when it comes to this thing called the food pantry, Dave Leary, did you ever hear of him?
Absolutely.
Yeah, Dave Leary and I started it. He was the fire chief, you know. He was in charge of putting out the fire in the dump. And him and I have 2 different types of personalities. You probably figured that one out, right? So he ran it. He was the boss. And he had the job of taking care of keeping you people happy. And my job was to get the food and get the money. Why is that important? Because I think you have to remember, when I raised the money, and I raised quite a little bit, I told people it would be only used for one purpose, the purpose of food and necessities for the poor citizens of Middleton. That was the only reason it was used. And, you know, so now things are changing, correct? At least as I understand it, it's going to change, which is fine. I'm out of here. But I may visit. The other thing, I went to last Friday to view the site of the new food pantry. It was very clean, extremely clean. I'm not going to say anything more about it than that.
Did you like it, Frank?
Beg pardon?
Did you like it?
I will let Colleen address that issue. Like it? Yes.
Okay.
That's not my difficulty. But is it adequate? I don't think so, in terms of size. But that's an issue not for me to take care of, that's an issue for Colleen to discuss in the future. Does it make sense?
Yep.
I wish you all the best of luck. I enjoy living in Middleton. I will visit on occasion, the food pantry. I will probably donate Hershey's candy, which I usually do anyway, on a weekly basis. I wish everyone in the town of Middleton good luck. And I want to invite you to my funeral. You're all invited to my funeral. It's going to be a great affair.
It's going to be a long time from
Right,
now.
exactly.
You're going to have free beer, free food,
Green beer?
green beer. You're going to have
Hershey
a priest
Kisses.
there from Ireland, and it's going to be a great fair. You're going to have a great time. I want to thank you, people, for doing what you do. I certainly appreciate and I certainly appreciate the people in Middleton. I had a wonderful life in your community. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all you've done.
Frank, thank you, all you've done. Frank, I'm a big believer, to those much is given, much is expected. You've lived that clearly in all your years here in Middleton. And like, just the discussion of what we are having tonight, this discussion we would not be having if you didn't start what you started over there.
And don't forget, Davey.
Yeah, well,
Dave.
I agree,
Yeah.
but the two of you kicking this off made the big difference. So thank you very much, Frank.
We had two original volunteers, which you probably might think.
What year did you start it,
Funny.
Frank?
It was Chrissy Cook, if you know her, and Paul Richardson.
Yes.
You know who Paul is?
I've heard the name,
We've
heard the
heard
name before. Frank,
We're
what,
all volunteers right now. We probably had 75 or more
At least.
since,
Frank, what year did you start it? What year did you start it?
25 years ago. 26 years. God bless you all.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you. Okay, so I'm hoping that, so we're going to get to the license discussion very quickly with the board and the executive director. So it sounds like for the 5 members of the board, I mean, I know you said yes, there seems to be agreement of how these dollars will be expedited, allow you guys to build your reserves, get to the point of sustainability, and then we'll get to the rules of the road, and then actually get you guys into the space, operational, and going forward. So I think what
Right.
yeah, go ahead.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
So on the gift cards, because there's, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's a lot of fraud that happens with gift cards. So you can go up to Walmart in New Hampshire, right? And you can buy liquor, you can buy cigarettes, you can buy, that is not what we
Yeah, so
want to. Can we put like certain stipulations on certain gift cards?
So Deb, my thought is on that, and I'm a big believer, like, when I donate to a charity,
That
it's my expectation is that the charity is doing right with the dollars that I've donated, and the individuals that are receiving the dollars are doing right. If, and the only reason why I said gift cards, you as a board and organization may decide, we don't want to do that. But I wanted to at least have that as an option, because mom comes in and says, I really need formula, but my baby can only have soy formula, and you don't have soy formula on the shelf. I don't want mom leaving without formula, or diapers, or whatever you choose. You're going to see the need that's coming in the door. And because the Council on Aging facility that you were at was so small, there's probably a large number of folks in this town that didn't even know there was a food pantry there. We have this brand new facility, and I've said this in the beginning, the number of people that are going to come in to pay their tax bills in person that have never done it because they want to see this building, they're going to walk in and they're going to walk right by the food pantry. So there's going to be more people that are going to know. Now, I hope that it's going to continue to be the welcoming place that no judgment, you have your own separate entrance if need be. But I would say, to the point a fraud. I hope that those that get a gift card or a voucher do the right thing with it. If they don't,
And that would be my
but if they,
hope. And
but they
I
don't,
mean,
there's
I'm
still a
not-
lot of people that are gonna do
Right.
the right thing. Somebody that has a
But I
need.
feel, I feel bad for the officers now of this 5013C, if that ever came back, and that was what happened. Unfortunately, we don't live in the world we used to live in with honesty 25 years ago when Frank started this. You know what I mean? It's just not, unfortunately.
But what I did not want to do is limit to certain things, and if
I-
you came in 6 months from now and said, geez, well, we can't use the dollars for gift cards, and I'm seeing a large number of folks that want to utilize, so,
I agree with
yeah,
that
I
too,
agree.
Bray.
So, just for purposes of understanding, I would also entertain a motion of the expectation that we are going to spend down this $260-some-odd-thousand as quickly as possible and allow you guys to build your reserves.
I'll make that motion, Brian.
Okay, there is a motion.
Second.
And there is a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, if any? Okay, that passes unanimously. So Colleen and your board, I know some of your board is here, some are not. I'll have Justin work directly with you. We'll find a time, hopefully next week. I don't know where you are during the day, or we can do an afternoon or an evening. I'll come, we can meet here, and then we'll get this done quickly. And if we get this done quickly, we may be able to actually do this at next Tuesday's board meeting. If not, the Tuesday after. Okay. Tuesday, yeah, because we're still, it's still going to have to be blessed by our attorneys. And I assume you're probably going to want your attorney to look at it as well. So let's plan for the April 7th Select Board meeting of getting this all buttoned up, and then flick the switch.
Can I address one
Yeah.
thing that was brought up?
Yeah.
Debbie, you brought up about how you didn't realize that we were going to be the 501c, or we were even thinking about doing it. When Frank first came to me and wanted me to take over this pantry, I really didn't want to step in and do this, but I really love helping the people of the town, and I love to do this. So I said no to him a few times, and then I decided to do it.
He's hard to say no to.
So when I decided to do it and to become the 501c3, I did bring it up. It was brought up to the town. I brought this up to Justin. I have it in an email right here that Jillian ended up sending me and Ann Kuchar an email saying that, this is Jillian's words, I met with the town administrator today. He was supportive of the food pantry becoming a 501c3. Whether it is a Friends or a standalone will depend on legal counsel. So I was never told that the town was upset by this.
So I
No,
wouldn't
I
say the
was
town's
speaking for myself.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that-
Personally, I didn't know about it
Brian, could I-
until that last fall.
Okay.
The first time I met you, that was, and again, I've only, 5 years in?
Yeah, 4, 5.
Five.
So I've been sitting back on this one a little bit, but there are like some elements that I think need to be touched upon. So we did have conversations about you all forming a friends group. As highlighted in that email, it was the recommendation of our council for it to be a friends group, but we never got the opportunity to weigh in on it because we met on it, heard nothing about it for 6 months, and then it was dropped on our laps collectively at a select board meeting about 6 months later. And so I understand your position, but there's some context there that's important. And I think therein lies some of the issue that we've been having, and Debbie touched on it a little bit earlier, is, these type of decisions are policy, and there's a process for those decisions to be made. They're made at this table by the 5 people to my left, and I don't have a vote. What I will more often than not do is provide a recommendation, gather resources, gather information to put them in the best position possible to make a determination. But I don't make a determination there. And I think what we've run into is a pattern where, your group will communicate with my office. We talk about the work you're doing, and I think we're all in agreement that it's an important charge, and we appreciate the work that's being done. But then at some point between when we meet and the next time we communicate, somebody in town, and I don't know who it is, but and it happens in small towns, but there's pot stirrers, and they're always going to exist. I'm just going to call it out for what it is. And I think there's some people that derive pleasure from winding other people up. And rather than reaching out, which is partly why I reached out relative to the Facebook post, is, hey, I saw your post. I think there's some context here that might be helpful. Because if you're just hearing from one person who's only giving you a tiny view of the whole picture, as written on Facebook, that looked pretty bad. The select board, it didn't look great. I didn't look great at people calling the town greedy. But from where I sit, the town has spent the last few years actively raising hundreds of thousands of dollars towards building that new space down there, hundreds of staff hours between the two of us, making sure that space exists today. And hundreds of staff hours, frankly, trying to help support the Council on Aging, on the phone with Jillian, now on the phone with Aniela, trying to smooth out things and pave the way for you guys to be successful. But it seems like our hand gets bit every 2 weeks or so over something that could have just been a phone call. And so what I'd ask is, moving forward, if there's any doubt, pick up the phone. I'm exceptionally accessible. My door is always open. I take people in off the street all the time, and I will talk to them. I will certainly clear my calendar for you. If there's something that pops up, and this is to the residents in general, that raises an eyebrow or says, wow, that seems pretty crummy of the town, I recommend you give us a call, because I think there's probably more to the story, and we're always happy to give it. So with that said, as you always have had, you have our full support. We want to see you succeed, but let's work on communication a little bit.
Yeah, and I agree. And on that point, Justin will tell you this, and Jackie can weigh in, because before Justin was here, I have been for probably north of 4 years saying I wanted the town to be out of the business of raising and holding dollars for the food pantry. I wanted a 501c3. What I always envisioned was the friends of, that it would still be the domain of the town operating the food pantry that really was born by Frank and Dave Leary, but was really operated within the confines of the town. Now, Frank was there a lot, Dave was there, God bless him when he was still alive, and others. However, it was still a town organization. And I mean, I only recently, to Debbie's point, only recently found out that the 501c3 that was created was not like a Friends. And it is what it is. And to your point, I mean, that may be the best option, but I was the one, and both will tell you, I was advocating for the longest period of time, there needs to be a 501c3. There was $250,000 at one point sitting, well, north of that, sitting in an account that our town accountant finance director was responsible for. And because the dollars were given to the town on, like, in reality, like legal reality, it's town dollars. And so that's why we're having this discussion tonight. It wasn't just a check that we would like, oh, well, we'll just give this to you, good luck. I also have a fiduciary responsibility to the town and the voters that put me here, as you now have your own fiduciary responsibility with your organization. So we will figure out how to operate like in a meaningful but also respectful manner. I didn't respond to the Facebook post. Why? Because I usually type it, then delete it, type it, then delete it, and then put my hands in my pocket.
I just shut it off.
But, unfortunately, what that story turned into was not the reality of what happened tonight. And it's surely not the reality of what the board was. And I know, Jeff, you were upset over whether it was $200, $1, or $2, or anything in between.
And I have to say something. It's starting to sound like the plan was for $200 a month rent.
No, there was discussion that I spoke to
recommendation.
I spoke to a member of the board about this as well, of the board of directors of the organization about this as well. That was the starting point of a conversation of, if there is going to be a organization that's not the town operating within the town, what should or should not be part of that fee structure. And that was discussed as a starting point. But as you understood, Jeff, This is the board. There are
Right,
5 of us.
right.
This is and to Justin's point, Justin's always going to make a recommendation.
Which would have been
This
a
board,
lot more than, the recommendation was not $1.
but if the recommendation was $200, this board would have had the authority to say yes or no. I view,
conversation never had a
I view Justin's
recommendation.
role different than this board's role, not just that he doesn't have a vote on this board. I view his role, his number one role is, he's not a political entity. We are. The 5 of us, whether you realize it or not, we're a political board, big P and small p. And because of that, decisions that get made by an elected body that is elected in a political manner are different than the decisions that are made by a professional manager or a professional assistant town manager or a professional finance director, because their requirements are different. He's getting recommendations from counsel on a legal basis, recommendations from the finance team of, we don't even know what the costs would be because we had no idea to even track what the costs were previously. That was his recommendation. It wasn't his edict.
But, right, and he has every right to make that recommendation, and that's fine. But for it to be suggested that when a citizen finds out that could be happening, and for a citizen to reach out publicly and advocate for what they believe, I think that's great. And I thank the people that commented on that post and contacted us, whether we got phone calls or whatever. I commend those people. I don't admonish them for publicly stating their opinion, which maybe could change some of our opinions. So I don't admonish people for that. I commend them for that.
No, I appreciate that. If I would, the one caveat I'd give you that is social media never changes my opinion,
Okay.
ever, ever.
It's usually half-truth.
I'll be sure not to post a thank you to you.
I just want to say, from my perspective, where we are is where we should be, with a 501c3 that runs the food pantry, with how the dollars that were donated to the town for food pantries, how that gets expended.
Yep.
And I hope that the discussion going forward is how do we make that successful? Not rehashing how we got to this point.
right.
Because we got to a good point.
So my
wasting my
discussion
time.
next week with you is going to be all about the license, rules of the road, and then expectations of how we support you and you support the town in this building and going forward. And then any other contribution that comes to the town, our recommendation, at least my recommendation, is going to be, please write that check to the Middleton, Mass. Food Pantry Incorporated.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, the record, it was never any more than $1 for me long before there was any social media swirl, so, just for the record.
And if I could just, I know I hate to beat that horse here, but Jeff, to speak to your point there, I think that the issue for me is this board never got the opportunity for me to provide that recommendation. It got hijacked midstream, blasted out into the universe without context, and I think it really frustrated and disappointed a lot of people in a way that if I think there was an opportunity to bring it to a public meeting, explain the reasoning, explain that I had sat down with the board of directors and looked at them face to face and explained my reasoning, and I saw nodding at the table, and maybe they didn't love it, but it certainly wasn't, this is an abomination. And then for all of a sudden, for it to blast out on Facebook and spiral out of control in that way, makes everybody look bad. And I would just encourage, not only for this specific topic, for any topic in town, let it go through the process. Let's not pick out the parts that make us mad and blast them out into the universe, because I think everybody nowadays wants to get mad about something, and it's quick to do that. And it may feel satisfying in the moment, but it's not to the benefit of the town, to the food pantry, to people that have needs, to this board, to me, to anybody, to do that, to
With all
step
due
outside of
respect,
the process.
sometimes something, by the time it goes through the process and the process ends, it's too late for someone to express an opinion. So I'm grateful when I get people's opinions during the process, not for them to wait to the end of the process.
And Justin, just to let you know, I was on your side. I wasn't just saying that and walking out and telling the whole town what was spoken about. But the food pantry people have asked me what was being said and what was being discussed. And I did mention what you told me. And I had nothing to do with the social media aspect of it. I didn't tell someone to go on and do that. That was their own.
That's
willing
just the
self
way
to do
people
that.
can be.
It just
Yeah,
happened.
that's
But
fine.
I
It's all
was-
good, as they say
How it
today.
happens,
It's all good.
Colleen.
No, I know. I
And-
just wanted to say I was in
Yeah.
agreement, and if I had to pay it out of my own pocket, I would, and not take it out of the pantry's pockets.
Yep, certainly
So-
appreciate it. And I think
So
that-
we have officially beat this horse to death.
two
I
horses. I was just gonna say, I'm down the hall now, so if they wanna know, send them down the hall, they can get it straight
So-
from the horse's
I
mouth.
do have one more, and it's
Yeah.
really important.
Sure.
So on this license agreement, the address needs to get changed.
Yes.
From 48 South Main Street to 105.
We've caught that a few times, though. Yeah, thank you. It's probably gonna
We'll
keep
have
happening, but we're gonna do our
And the
best.
map and lot is in Middleton, not Holliston.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Tomorrow, you two talk about some dates. I'll lock it down on my calendar. Let's do this ASAP, and then let's plan on April 7th, putting ink to the agreement and then opening the doors. Okay?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to all of you
you,
guys.
guys.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
Next on the agenda, we get to appoint a member of the scholarship committee, and we have with us Mrs. Marianne Erickson. How are you? So, thank you for stepping up and being willing to serve. It's funny, a couple of meetings ago, we had a long discussion on the scholarship committee because we had a scholarship that was being closed down, and I think there are some folks in town that don't know we have a scholarship committee unless they actually have a student that's a senior in high school and getting ready to go off to college. But we do have a scholarship committee, and many good people have served over the years. So Marianne, thank you for your willingness to stand up and serve. And I'd ask the gentleman to my right, who's the keeper of the dates. This would be for a period through
28.
Through
June
June
30th,
30th,
28.
2028. And I believe the scholarship committee only meets once a year,
Hey, Jeff.
At the beginning of April.
beginning of April. So
Yeah, but.
Is that a motion?
the timing couldn't be any better. So I would entertain a motion for the appointment of Marianne Erickson for a period through June 30th, 2028.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, if any? Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you,
applying and
Marianne.
coming in.
Thank you.
So you'll get to serve in about a week.
Make sure you get sworn in.
So we actually have your paperwork signed. There's a lady here that can swear you in right now, and then you'll be ready to go.
Thank you.
We're not wasting any time.
Would you like to be sworn right now?
Sure.
Will you kindly raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon you as a member of the Scholarship Committee for the town of Middleton in accordance with the bylaws of the town and the laws of the Commonwealth? Yes, I do. Welcome aboard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Never.
We're going to quickly jump to number 7 on the schedule, which is public comment. I'm excited. Maybe it's the new facility. Maybe it was the hot topic this evening, but we have folks in the room. Are there any individuals in the room that would like to speak on something that is not on the agenda? Okay.
I'm going to refrain.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear anything over there, so.
Just here for the good looks.
Okay.
I think I'm better.
Okay, next on the agenda is number 5, which is a transfer station fee schedule. And we actually have a gentleman in the room that served on our solid waste committee, so he may have some thoughts on this as well. But I know, Justin, you wanted to bring before us, there are 2 items that you're proposing, both bulk electronic, an increase to $50, and mattresses, an increase to $60. And I would expect the rationale for that is growing costs of disposing and recycling bulk electronic, but many folks do not know that when you dispose of a mattress, it actually has to be taken apart and recycled as such, cannot just be put in the waste stream.
Right.
So there are costs associated with that. I'm expecting that our Public Works Director has looked at costs associated with that, but also what area transfer stations are charging, and that is the recommendation.
That is correct.
Did I steal all your thunder?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. If so, I would, I don't know if there are any comments on this fee structure. This would take effect as of
July 1.
New fiscal
July
year.
1?
Yep.
Okay. And we will update the fees on the website and others to reflect that. Okay. And for those that are disposing of these, you need to, for those that are watching this meeting, you need to go down to our new town hall at our Middleton Municipal Campus. Center, sorry.
Complex.
Complex. And we only debated that 4 hours. Complex, and visit the treasurer collector's office where you can get a sticker permit to dispose of those in advance. Okay, is there a motion to approve the rate fee increase?
I'll make the motion.
There is a
I'll
motion.
second.
There is a second by Costa. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any? That passes unanimously. Okay, further discussion from previous meetings and hopefully this evening, the finalization of a field use fee in policy. And I think that will be Jackie that's leading us on this.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So based on the board's feedback from our last few meetings on the topic, I've put together probably the shortest policy I've written in my career, which I'm very excited by. But I have rewatched all of our meetings and taken into account all the feedback from the board members. So this would establish a field use fee schedule for athletic and playing fields owned and maintained by the town of Middleton. This does not include the town green at 105 South Main Street. Fields would include athletic fields, and the athletic leagues would have a $25 seasonal fee per league for booking with a $10 per person fee. And then for non-resident one-time event use, we would have a $30 fee. So there would be no fee for resident-sponsored events such as Earth Day that's coming up on, I believe, May 3rd, as a good example. All fees collected from the schedule will be turned into the field use revolving fund, and that money can only be spent on the maintenance improvement of those same fields.
With a maximum amount per year that can be expended under the revolving fund.
That is part of the revolving fund bylaw that we're looking to amend at town meeting and thus not reflected in this policy, but yes.
Okay. And so for the green space at this facility, I know it's not included in this agreement. However, can a member of the public in the future, once this is fully completed in the gazebo bandstand pavilion is installed and operational, can townspeople reserve and utilize that for activities?
Yes, but we will incorporate that into the meeting room municipal campus policy. And it will not be, to be fully transparent with people, anytime this year, because we're gonna have a long year of seating ahead of us this summer.
I don't want anybody
work.
on that until it's
So,
mature.
we'll probably have updates about that after the holidays in early calendar year 27, about what that process will look like.
And that'll be managed separately from this.
Yeah, so this process, these fields will continue to be managed by the Department of Public Works, because they oversee the improvement and maintenance, whereas the town common, town green, I can't remember what we're calling it.
In the pavilion.
And the pavilion will be through our office, because the pavilion will have a key that has to be agreed to, and there'll be it's a little bit different with power and a structure.
Yep, understood. Okay. So anything specifically you want to call out under the field use that you've proposed?
I think we've kept it as simple as humanly possible while still addressing all the board members' concerns.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
I'll move to adopt the presented policy.
Second.
Okay,
Do you
there,
have a member of the public that has a comment?
oh, sure, yeah.
I'm saying that's unrelated to this topic. If we move to the next topic, did you need the food
We are
pantry
set.
people?
Oh, no, I thought you wanted to stay because you wanted to see how government is made. No,
You're riveted.
no,
Watch them anyway.
you're welcome to stay or you're,
Hang around.
Yeah,
no, you're good.
Okay.
Sorry that.
All right.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much.
It's not
Thanks
the
for all
way
you
we
guys
keep
do.
track of these meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so there is a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, if any? Okay, and that passes unanimously, and this will be effective March 17th, 2026.
Excuse me.
Okay. Next on the agenda is distributed to you this evening was a calendar for the rest of the calendar year. Similar to the sports complex, it's already booking out for next winter's hockey schedule. We're booking out through December 29th. So we have in front of you the schedule. You'll see from next Tuesday's meeting through December 29th. Included in that is annual town meeting of the 12th. The 19th is a select board meeting. It's also the night of the day of the election. And
Happens
then,
a lot, it seems like.
yeah, it seems, well, since we've moved from Monday to Tuesdays. And then going forward of end of fiscal year meeting of the select board and other items. I do see that you say December 29th licenses. I would recommend that we do not do this on December 29th. I recommend that we make our final license vote the 15th.
December
So,
15th,
yes.
Brian?
Yes, I
Do you
do
think that's
not-
realistic, Brian?
Well, I honestly, I mean, I've said this earlier in the year when we were dealing with all of the stragglers. I do not want to build a process that, again, rewards not being timely in you, Jackie, and Chantel, and
Can I make a counter proposal to that effect? Would it be possible so that it's a little less stressful for us? Because at the end of the day, we live in a world full of human beings, and human beings are gonna do what they're going to do. Can we have the 29th on the schedule tentatively, rather than this year, for example, we met at noon on New Year's Eve because we ended up needing to do a last minute meeting anyway. And could we just maybe have it on there, put the word tentative in parentheses, maybe?
I would like to say December 15th licenses, December 29th licenses, if needed,
That would be wonderful. Thank you for accommodating
at
that.
the board's discretion. I do not want to give, and I appreciate that humans will act as humans, but I do not want to have you all working until the last minute on December 31st.
100% appreciate that. Do not want to ring in the new year with you all for a second year in a row. No
Oh,
offense.
come on.
Okay.
Um,
I'll also state, as I stated at the beginning of my chairmanship, and which will run through the 19th of May, if there are any dates on here that you look at and say, hey, you know, I've got a family vacation that's coming, other than annual town meeting or licensing fees, appointments, other than that, let us know and we can shuffle this schedule in a way in advance. But I'd like to get this at least locked in sooner than later, so.
And I would highlight that we do not have a special town meeting anticipated at this point in time.
Yeah, and I agree with that at that time. And this, again, runs a single July and a single August meeting as we usually operate.
Yep.
Although September will be 3 meetings. Okay,
For that.
next on the agenda is an update on the FY '27 budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just on a high level, a brief update, a couple moving parts that we're looking at to break it down for the public. We started the budget process this year in a deficit of about $860,000. That was almost twice as much as the deficit we started with the year prior. And we anticipate that trend to more than likely continue just because costs continue to outrun what we can raise due to Prop 2.5. So we're looking to get creative. We run pretty lean as it is, so there's not a lot of areas to try to collapse into. At this point in time, we have gotten the deficit down to about $150,000 for the upcoming fiscal year '27. So we're within striking distance, but with that said, we've kind of pushed revenues as far as we can push them comfortably to still be conservative. And we've cut pretty much everywhere realistically we can cut. So there are some outstanding items that we're looking at. Health insurance came in lower than anticipated, which helped close that large gap for us, but it also moved the needle a little bit for the schools. I spoke with the chair earlier today, and the school committee had reached out, and we're going to be meeting a small group on Friday, just to kind of talk about what, if any, they're going to be able to turn back, which could ultimately cut our $150,000, well, down to zero if it was the entirety of it, but being realistic, even if it was half, I think makes our lives that much easier. We are, at this point in time, still trying to hold firm on continuing the commitment of moving the health insurance split by 2% every year, so that is factored into the calculus there. However, if push comes to shove and we find that we can't balance, that is something that is unfortunately gonna have to be on the chopping block. But like I said, we remain committed to it, and anything we can do to try to continue moving that needle from a retention standpoint is important, but also we try to support our employees as much as humanly possible, and in full recognition that it's a difficult budget year for the town. It's a difficult budget year for people and families, and who are trying to balance their checkbook. So I think it's, you know, walking the line between being fair and sensitive to the needs of our employees, but also fair and sensitive to the needs of the residents. So that's the update for now. There is the joint meeting with the Finance Committee coming up on the 24th, one day immediately following the school committee's meeting, and we're hoping that we're going to have a final balanced recommendation at that point in time.
Okay, great. I'd like to call out a big thank you to the Middleton representatives of the Masconomet School Committee. I think they really drove strongly the decision by the overall, or at least the majority of the overall school committee at Masco, to make some further reductions and alignments in the budget that removed any need for an override by the town of Middleton on the Masconomet School Committee. I know the other two towns are going to be in an override position. We're not, but I want to call out Matt and Kendra and Trevor and Lisa, thank you, for their work on that. I think the four of them working together did a good job of driving that discussion to the full committee.
I agree.
And, you know, they, even though they had a 14.4% health insurance increase, they were able to get to under the request of Boxford and Middleton and Topsfield not to increase the total community contribution more than 2.5%. They came in at 2.39%.
Right.
No, I appreciate that. Equally to our budget process, it's not been an easy year, so that wasn't lost on me. So more to come on the 24th. I mean, to your point, Justin, the last piece to this puzzle is the elementary school, and hopefully we can get to an agreement there that it's not going to make for a very difficult meeting on the 24th. So, okay, any further discussion on the budget? Okay, we're going to move to number 10 on the agenda, which is a draft warrant review. In your package, you have the warrant articles. We are going to have a snow and ice deficit, correct?
That is correct, unfortunately.
That is correct. But Justin, if you want to walk us through some of the items in the warrant?
Sure. So we have 32 articles in total at this point in time. The warrant is in the works. As it gets later on in the warrant, some of the articles are dependent on language or data that are outside of our immediate control. So we're still waiting to collect some of those. Of note from the last time you had met, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, if you're looking at the capital budget, line 18, you'll see that we broke out line 19, litigation expenses for 3A MBTA zoning. Line 20, which is a 3A grant replacement, a council on aging van portion, well, the entirety of which we lost received a $35,000.
So Justin, I think the warrant that's in the package that we're reviewing today.
Is it numbered different?
Numbered slightly.
Yeah, so it's
I'm going off the sheet of articles if you have it.
yeah.
Okay. 21 was the SAFE and Senior SAFE grant, so it's a student awareness of fire education is another grant that we lost because of non-compliance with 3A zoning. And then a firefighter equipment upgrade, a little over $15,000 also for that purpose.
Do we have final decisions on that yet?
The last that we've heard in talking with Chief Locust late last week is that they had not returned, those monies. And actually, it's worth mentioning, we received news today from the COA that we got denied another transportation grant from the state because of 3A noncompliance. But I'm still waiting on backup for that.
And how much is that?
I don't have it yet. But once I get it, I'll.
Is
forward it
that
to the board.
something that we're gonna have to backfill?
Admittedly, I don't know. I don't even have the full amount. I just heard from Daniela that it was denied and that was the reason, but I don't know what the quantity was or what the scope of the grant was, so I'll forward that to the board.
So if that is the case and it's a dollar amount that can't be absorbed in the budget, I recommend that move over to the capital.
Okay, I'll put in, for the draft and then you all will, review it one more time on the 24th and have an opportunity to bless it.
Okay, good, thanks.
We'll make a note to add that. And then also, Brian, as you just mentioned, we have removed the placeholder for an override for Masco for their operating budget. And if I could also reiterate kudos to that team. I know sometimes the directive given from this board or from my office to Masco is sometimes frustrating. They have their own financial challenges and they really delivered this year in a huge way. So
They do.
we're appreciative of that. You'll see that there are 2 MSBA projects on there. One of them is for design and feasibility stage for a roof and HVAC project for Masco. The other one is for construction phase for the Fuller Meadow roof for the elementary school. So we're still awaiting language from the state on that. For the first time, we're gonna have to use free cash to fund arbitrage payment. That is the result of proceeds that we got for investing the early borrowing for this project. So Sarah's nailing down what the final numbers are, in terms of what that will look like. We have the Mass Clean Water Trust PFAS remediation, something that we got maybe 2 weeks ago, news from the state that the town is going to be invited to that program for a low interest loan to pull a water line down to neighborhoods impacted by PFAS leaching from any landfills. But we're once again waiting on the state for language relative to that. And authorization to.
And even if that debt authorization is approved, nothing will be struck upon until there is an agreement on the low-interest loan
Correct.
program.
Yep, exactly. It's just an authorization. It's not actually putting it into motion. And then this actually got dropped in the mix, but I found it in my notes. There were discussions of an authorization to move from quarterly to semi-annual tax bills. It was a pretty significant savings.
Can I just add to that?
Please.
So we should have to change that language, and because there is such a thing as semi-annual, and those are paid twice a year. We were only talking, or Nick was just talking about sending out 2 tax bills. So it would be February and May in one envelope, and then August and November in the second envelope. That could, that
Important distinction.
language
Same
would,
due dates as now.
yeah.
So it's still gonna be,
Yeah, everything stays the
that
same.
will still
You
be
pay
quarterly, but we'll
4
only be
times.
printing twice a year instead of
Right.
4 times.
Reword that
Right.
and work with legal counsel for the appropriate wording.
Do we know what the savings would actually, like, is it?
He was supposed to get back to us
they said
on
it.
that.
Before we put it on there, we should see what is it really worth?
In the
worth it?
thousands,
in
but
the
I can't
thousands,
remember.
didn't he? I
what it
thought there was a
exactly.
number. I can't
Yeah, I
remember.
thought he provided one, but I'll confirm that with
It was
him.
you
higher
may-
than I was
I thought
expecting.
he said, I think
10,000,
it's like 10,000,
wasn't it?
but
Big
that doesn't
chunk,
seem
but-
realistic
Let's say
to
10
me.
grand.
Let me ask him to double check.
Okay.
Because you will get some delayed second quarter payments that people are gonna forget, or, I mean, likely, there is some other consequences to that.
I mean, I own a home that I get 2 bills a year that are just like the model we're gonna
Yeah.
move to, and the town is very good about,
Reminding?
yes.
We would have to.
You know, with the websites, the email blasts, we can spread the word.
And, once again, the town gets to vote on it. It's not decided by,
Right.
not this board. The town gets to vote on it.
And then just rounding things out, a citizens petition charter relative to the recall process. It excludes, as it's currently written, the Masco School Committee, and the citizens petition is just asking that we add it. So we'll continue to brush that up a little bit. I would anticipate easily by the end of the month, we should have a final draft reviewed by legal counsel that we'll distribute about a week in advance of the reading on April 7th. And if, as I mentioned earlier, if anybody either on this board or finance committee has any notes, please provide them in advance. We'll incorporate them and call them out at the reading, and hopefully we'll have a good polished document at that point in time.
Okay, but I know our agenda said reading of the warrant on the 24th, but we are reading it on the 7th.
On April 7th,
Yep.
yes.
Okay.
Yep, correct, thank you.
Okay. Any questions on the warrant? Okay, next on the agenda, number 11, is an update on surplus properties. We're going to talk about the police station, the old town hall, also known as the former council on aging, and Locust Street property.
I'm going to recuse myself just on the police station because I'm a butter.
Okay.
I'll let you talk about that one.
Okay. So why don't we start with the police station?
Put my coat on.
Thank you. So just to catch up on some of these items, the past few months, we've really been locked in on getting into this building and getting now the public safety building open. But we don't want to wait until the dust fully settles to pivot back over to these. So we have been keeping the irons hot, so to speak, for the police station, potentially reworking the RFP that we had put out in advance of the holidays. We got some good feedback on that I think there are some opportunities to reshape it. However, Debbie, you had reached out with some notes as well about potentially an alternative method that you've seen in other communities for disposing of property that I'm open and willing to take a look at as well. I don't know if the board has any additional feedback on that before we go in one direction or the other.
So I'm not going to negotiate against myself, but I think if we are going to post this again, I do not think, I think we open it up to make us an offer. I'd like to get this out of our ownership, and I would like to get this on our tax rolls sooner than later. Because if not, we're going to be sitting on a vacant property that'll be sitting there.
Exactly. So I can summarize quickly the process that we just went through. And we took the RFP route, wrote one. We didn't receive any kind of feedback. Nobody was interested. So in the town that I work in, North Reading, we owned a house, single-family house. We needed it to get access to the pump. Fast forward, what we entertained, I contacted one of our local realtors, and because we're a municipality, you can't pay a commission, but you can pay a flat fee. That realtor was willing to take that flat fee.
Only if sold.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So we had stipulations in there. He is the one that posted it on the MLS. He monitored. He did all the legwork that a realtor would do. We are not, the people at 105 Main Street here don't need to be realtors. It's a lot of work. He did open houses. He closed that deal in 45 days. Now, I have already talked to him, and he said he would be willing to do it here, too.
But here's my question. So what you were selling was a single-family home that was being sold to continue as a single-family home.
Yep.
I fully expect whoever purchases this property is going to tear it down and redevelop.
I would think.
So is it, I guess my first question is, I was always under the assumption by law we had to do an RFP.
It depends. It's kind of on a case-by-case basis. Do you have a redevelopment authority?
Excuse me?
Is there a redevelopment authority in North Reading? No. There are some opportunities to go outside of that. Do you recall what the fee was offhand?
Just under 50.
Yeah, so
I can get the exact amount. It's been a couple months now, so I don't remember.
I can take the example that you had emailed me and I'll bounce it off legal counsel to see what
I
that
think I
process
sent you
would look like.
the.
I have it
yeah,
from you, yep.
Okay.
So I'll take a look at that and get feedback to the board. And then relative to the RFP process, the biggest benefit for us is that it allows you to shape what it ultimately looks like. So for something like the Memorial Hall disposition eventually, like that's something that you're gonna wanna be a little more hands.
Well, then the
hands-on
RFP
on.
allows you to state, we will accept this and we will not accept that.
Right.
Or
Exactly.
if we're selling the property, it's gonna be sold with this contingency.
Right, but for the PD, where you wanna just get it onto the tax rolls and out of our stable, then, maybe something a little less technical might be an appropriate route,
And
so,
more generic.
yeah.
I mean,
So I will look into that and bring it, to your next regular select board meeting, some
And,
options
you
on
know, and I would have, you know, a minimum, basically the land value is the minimum.
so we had a minimum in there, and we had a lot of rule, I can send it to you, it's a public document, I think I sent it to you, too. But we did put in a lot of restrictions, and we didn't put in as many restrictions as the first RFP that went out for the police station.
Police station, yeah.
That was, I mean, the feedback I got on that was there's just too many restrictions.
Too many
and-
hoops. Yep.
Yeah, too many hoops, and people don't want to do hoops. They want easy. And, you know, he's a very experienced realtor that I worked with. And like I said, I've already mentioned to him about the police station. He said, absolutely, I'd entertain that.
Would we have to entertain more than one
No.
entity to do
Oh,
that?
yes.
That's why
yes,
I was curious
yes.
about the value of what was offered to them, so it depends on the dollar threshold. but
Because if
I'll
it's
look
at
into
that
too.
dollar threshold, we'd have to do some type of,
Solicitation.
Solicitation.
Typically do the work, and then ask them to
So-
propose a fee.
So what we did was we actually put it out there for any realtor to bid on it, to take it on. He was the highest bidder.
got it, okay.
We only received 3 or 4 other realtors, local realtors, if you will, that even wanted anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and explore that and bring it forward to the board. Turning,
So when the police exits that building on the 23rd,
yes,
what will be left inside that building?
some furniture, which there's some discussion just in advance of this meeting of whether or not that can be gifted to neighboring departments. So what I'd like to do between all of the buildings that we've left behind is first I'd like to open up to other town departments to walk through the buildings and see if there's anything that they can make use of. Once we've done.
Other town department or other towns?
Thank you, town departments, town and Middleton departments, to make sure, you know, if there's anything we can make use of in-house, that we're gonna make use of it. And then after that, opening it up to other agencies, I think may be appropriate if the board is up for that, you'd have to take a vote. And then after that, going through a formal decommissioning process, with a company who'll go through and catalog everything in there and go through the process of surplusing, the remaining items in there of value.
And of the items that are left in those buildings that are of no value or further use, I go back to your old desk with the broken drawers. Are we gonna wait until everything else is disposed of and then get rid of that? Or at some point, are we gonna get rid of that beforehand?
So once anything of value is picked clean out of there, anything that's left as part of the decommissioning process is gonna go in a dumpster, and they'll take care of that too. So,
Okay, good.
Yeah, it'll be a roll away, and we'll clear it out, so at least when we're looking to redevelop any of those buildings or sell them, they're gonna be empty, they won't just be filled with junk.
Okay, good. Okay, next on the list is Old Town Hall, former Council on Aging.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll give Mr. Garber a minute to get back to his, no rush.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Old Town Hall, I think, is probably one of the more complex ones that we've had, I think, from a political standpoint, just because I think the feedback on it has been a little mixed. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a widely beloved building, but I do think there's a constituency that, for its historic value, is committed to it, and, you know, it is a historic building. we've had conversations about whether or not the town should keep it, whether or not the town should go, or work out some type of agreement with the historic commission if they felt they could support the property. We had asked of them to put together some type of business plan or something kind of highlighting what that would look like and how it would work. And to date, I don't think they've been able to put something together because frankly, an old building like that is very expensive to maintain. So it would be a significant financial liability.
Not been able to put it together yet, or they just can't make the numbers work?
I don't think they can make the numbers work. I've had some conversations with members of the Historic Commission. It seems like there is, they may have reached an understanding that it may not be a viable option for them to retain it. And so looking at potentially if there's an interest of any local developers that would have an appetite to keep the building as it is, but redevelop it in some capacity, I think may be an appropriate approach. The town wouldn't own it.
So, under the model that Deb just described for the police station, if that model of using a Realtor, that's still, and our decision likely would be with the police station, sell it, let it be redeveloped within the zoning that's allowed there, get it on the tax rolls. Would that model that we're talking about, the police station, if that was used on this facility, would we still have the ability to put as
Like a deed restriction?
yeah, a deed restriction that it, you know, they can't change the facade look at it, you know, it has to stay white, it has to, like, items like that. Could you do that
Yeah,
and use
yeah,
that model?
absolutely.
Deb?
Yeah.
Because we actually maintained an easement to access to the Pitney Well and Pump.
Yeah,
So
so
would
I
you like to
would,
explore the same process?
I would explore the same for this. Now,
We'd have to move the tramp house, though.
yeah, yeah, and I think.
Which can be
so-
done.
They, let me hold, sorry. So say the Historical Society, do they own the Pleasant Street property?
Yes, they do.
Yes.
So there's no, I mean, I'm asking you, you're not them, but there was no interest in them to maybe
We had talked about a
sell
swap.
that and then have what it took to take over
We
the,
talked about that publicly.
I think
Yeah, I
my-
didn't know if-
I think my concern.
I just hate to see it go once it's goes
No, no, I
gone.
agree with you. I think my concern is even if they sold
Pleasant Street.
that Pleasant Street property, I have no idea what that would be worth.
I don't know, just thinking, you
It's
know.
probably just worth for the land is what the value is there.
It's a house lot.
Yeah, no, but my concern is to exactly the earlier discussion we had with the future of the not-for-profit operating the food pantry is sustainability. What I don't want to do is
Put them in a situation.
6 years from now, I mean, because they're barely able to sustain the cost of the facility they have now. Now, they would obviously sell and have some reserves that they would be able to build, but what does sustainability look like? Secondly, there's a lot of update that has to happen in that building. And once we become a landlord, whether it's a landlord for a not-for-profit or a landlord for Saltzback Chiropractic or anything in between, there's certain responsibilities that we as the landlord have on updating and maintaining that property. And I will tell you, after finalizing at some point the final facility project warrant for this building, I don't want to be spending much more on old buildings that we don't have a need for anymore. I think
The
the
whole
tax.
justification of this building was that
Well,
those
yeah.
buildings weren't usable.
And secondly, I think there was also an expectation that not every property would be sold, but the ones that logically made sense to be sold, to A, get it on the tax rolls.
That's correct.
But B, take the proceeds from those, whatever that number may be, and put it towards defraying the costs of the taxpayer's burden of this new property. So, but Rick, I'm with you on the other end of, I don't want 2 years from now go, we should have, coulda. But I also don't want that building sitting vacant.
Oh, no.
It's
It's a dilemma for sure.
one more thing that our liability insurance has to cover. It's one more thing you and your colleagues in the police department have to monitor, our fire department has to monitor. And at some point, that retaining wall is gonna collapse. like not to be responsible for that. Now, and now Costa, you have some thoughts as well in terms of bonding capacity and other items if there was an update that happened to that property. But I still go back to sustainability, whether it was them or any other group that came in and said, we want to rent from you. And, you know, I think we'd be back in the same discussion of a not-for-profit, $1 a year rent. I mean, we just set a precedent here. So if that's another $1 a year rent, who's paying the utilities? Who's paying the maintenance? I mean, this isn't a triple net rent that is paying updates and snow removal. I mean, is that one more parking lot that the town of Middleton DPW is going to be plowing? I mean,
Yeah, I wouldn't want us to retain anything on it if such a thing occurred. If they were able to sell something and then take that, but probably not.
given what the potential value of that property would be, what are we talking about in an annual tax basis that would be coming in, Costa?
On which property?
Yeah,
The old town
The
hall.
old town hall.
You know, the
It's not
land
gonna be-
value is $375.
Really?
The assessed,
Assessed. You can't buy a house lot in the town of Middleton.
well,
How many
but
square feet is the
But I
land?
don't know
Twen-
that that
just
would
over
comply with
20,000.
zoning.
Half an acre, a little over half an acre.
so you would have to remove the building, shore up the wall, the retaining wall.
Well, no, you could change the topography of the whole lot if you remove the building and not need a wall.
But then that's all part of the cost of the land. So in a subdivision, a lot may go for 700,000,
But
but
not there.
it's not in a subdivision, it's on a main street.
I agree.
There.
And you have to spend money to get it ready to build. So 300,000 to 400,000 is probably what you would get. But that would lead to something that's,
Renovated, rebuilt, whatever the case is.
and maybe worth $1 million of tax. That would,
So you're probably
generate
talking about
$12,000.
$12,000, $13,000 a year.
Yeah, once it's done.
So, if the
And we're
historic,
probably not talking a much different number on the police station either.
well, has a higher.
I think the police station, there's so many other options there because of the zoning, number one.
No, but I'm saying when that building's,
It's a larger.
when
it's
that
over an
property
acre.
is sold and reutilized into whatever manner, we're probably not talking north of 1.2 to 1.4.
Are you talking for resale?
No, I'm not talking sale value, I'm talking
Oh, you're
tax value.
talking revenue. So for an assessed value on there, it would all depend on the use. Every use will carry a different value on a price per square foot.
I mean, just think about the budget discussions we've had over the last couple of weeks. And we're down to the wire and we're scraping the budget to get us balanced. Imagine if you had another 35,000 available in your tax base, and that's just two properties.
Anyway.
And then speaking of a third, so if you can segue, so Locust Street, we've had some additional conversations about some discussion of whether or not it should be paired with Memorial Hall, which we can cover on a different night. I did have a meeting with Mass Housing Partnership late in the week last week, along with Anna, our town planner. And they actually expressed concern about pairing the two and felt it might make it more complicated, which was a bit of a concern. So I asked them specifically to take a look at Memorial Hall because that's more so what they specialize in. With that said, relative to Locust Street, the board had a conversation coming up on about a year ago about whether or not to do a like traditional subdivision. It would come out to roughly back of the envelope 12 lots.
12, 13 lots.
Or to try to do something a little more
Denser.
creative, and it would be about 17 lots, but ironically preserve more open space, which is a model that the town may benefit from in the long run. does the board have a preference on either of those approaches? And once you give it to me, that's gonna set me in the direction to go pursue that.
So I'll give you my thought on that. First off, and we've talked a lot about partnering Locust Street and Memorial Hall together.
I
I-
never thought it was good.
I don't disagree with the Mass Housing Partnership's concern on that. I'd also add that I think we can do something on both of those properties that give a level of affordability, whether it's a true affordable project or a project like you just mentioned, 16, 17 lots that has more open space, smaller homes, more of an easier entry point. I mean, starter homes in this town are unobtainable. What's being built in this town at some point in the future, I think, is going to be unsellable. 4, 5, 6,000 square foot homes. So my recommendation would be, at least on Locust Street, I mean, we've got the authority to move forward. Town meeting has granted that authority. I think let's strike in this sooner than later, and let's move to a denser model there of the restrictions on this property would be a building to be no more than X size, green space to be Y, But I also go back to the conversation that we had when the South Essex Sewerage District Executive Director came in, looking for our support on something that he needed. And I had specifically asked him, we would like to have that property be able to be connected into the South Essex Sewerage District. And he seemed very open to that discussion. I think we need to drive that down to the ground first, because if that property is now able to be connected to the South Essex Sewerage District, I think there's a greater opportunity to build something that is smaller in size, more green space, and more units, and more affordable.
It also you would need zoning relief to do that,
Right.
which creates more uncertainty, which draws out the process, and I think, it would be more challenging to find people to do it.
Unless we got the zoning release ahead of
Well,
time.
I don't know if I completely
it's
disagree
not-
with that. If I completely agree with that.
It's zoned for the actual square footage for a
Yes,
house
it's zoned
lot.
for a single family right now. And that.
That gives you 12 houses.
Yeah, which is
Yeah,
the acreage minimum.
yep.
So we did get feedback that it would be, and actually same thing for the police station, it would be more attractive for a potential buyer if the town walked it through that process and then went to sell it with the green light on it already. Which I'm happy to, work with Anna
And that would only be for the extra lots, because for conventional subdivision, people won't care because it's by right. They just have to design the road and.
Exactly. So if we, get through, do some early level engineering, and exploratory work and have some type of soft plan laid out and blessed, I think that would be beneficial.
But, would the ZBA grant relief on a soft plan?
That's up to them. So, and that's where it comes back to, I'm gonna have to work with Anna and see, and Scott Fitzpatrick and see, realistically what.
And where in the zoning, would it, you need a variance, or would it be some kind of cluster zoning, which is in the zoning
would
bylaw?
depend.
Right.
So just so that I make sure I have this right, because Locust Street could, for all intents and purposes, just go to the RFP process with the stipulations, with the minimum and the maximum size house.
Mm-hmm.
The number I have off the top of my head is 25 to 3,000. But that's just my head. If it goes through just the regular RFP process and a developer comes and puts a bid on that, it's going to be up to them to put the roadway in and create the 15 or 17 lots.
But if we want more than 12 or 13 lots, we can't require that in an RFP because there's no guarantee the zoning board will
If we wanted
grant
to,
it.
if we said
can't
we.
because we don't know that the zoning board will grant it.
We could today do an RFP and sell that property and say, under the conventional zoning, there would be 12
Right.
plus
That
or
we-
minus units and buildings, and we could say, we don't want anything bigger than 2,200 square feet.
We have that right.
We have that authority.
Stipulate
What I would
what I
like
said.
to see is not just 12 at 2,200 square feet. I would like to see 15 or 17
Right.
at 2,400 square feet with the incorporation of green space. It would not mean a 1 acre lot. It would be a smaller lot. And that would either have to be through zoning board of approval, zoning board of appeals approval, or a zoning change down there.
And you figure we're going into town meeting inside of, what, 6 weeks?
Well, it
Or
wouldn't be
2
this
months.
year's town meeting. Surely wouldn't be this year's
No,
town
we
meeting.
can change it at
But-
town meeting.
But if there is an ability for the zoning board of appeals in their authority to make an approval, that would allow this, to be sold under those auspices, I'd be open to doing so. If the zoning board of appeals says, no, we don't want to do that, then we have two options. Sell it as zoned, or go to town meeting and ask for a zoning change.
And you can't be spot zoning, that's the other thing you
No,
might run
no.
into.
No, of course not.
Yeah, you can't have an RFP now that requires more than 12 or 13 houses, because it's illegal to put more than 12 or 13 houses without a.
Well, as zoned.
As
Yeah,
zoned, right.
exactly.
There's too much uncertainty, I think, for a developer.
But the question to back up a little, to separate it from town hall, which I understand. Ryan, do you think there's dollars from Habitat of Humanity or some nonprofit to help? Because I don't think there's any
For
private
this-
developer
For
that's.
Locust or
No.
for Memorial Hall?
Memorial Hall.
So there is. So Jackie, help me, the organization that came in and spoke before the
Harbor
affordable, Harbor Light Homes came and spoke before the Affordable Housing Trust. And my recommendation in this meeting is, when we have the full conversation on Memorial Hall, I recommend we bring the Affordable Housing Trust in a joint meeting, because I think this is the pathway, Jeff. I don't want to get ahead of the conversation, but let me just say my thoughts on this. Harbor Light Homes, Middleton is part of their catchment area. But they've never done anything in Middleton. There's an appetite to do something in Middleton. They have been doing projects of redevelopment of schools and other buildings in affordable basis. We have the ability, through Affordable Housing Trust, dollars that the trust has now, hopefully future dollars that trust will be getting through the Community Preservation Act, and maybe potentially dollars from town meeting, to actually enter into a partnership with Harbor Light or an organization like Harbor Light to actually redevelop that property. My recommendation would be a redevelopment that gives us access to all the land and back where the fields are, and the fields will continue to be utilized as such, but the town of Middleton is not the owner of the building
What about the-
and the development.
The housing authority taking ownership once it's done. Do it affordable housing.
Well, those
like-
would be for rentals.
Yeah.
See, I would like these to be home ownership.
Okay.
And again, the Affordable Housing Trust can say, we could have a home ownership with Harbor Light that gives a preference to residents, gives a preference to town employees. I mean,
It's a great plan if
Yeah.
it's feasible.
But so you're basically saying a condo building.
basically.
But, yeah, I think, given the location of that lot, the size of the lot and the field and, behind it, and the need for parking for that field, I think, it might be more feasible to have that lot owned by the Affordable Housing Trust, who then works with Harbor Light to build and manage a rental.
That's right.
I don't think Harbor Light does that.
What about if it went to
So-
the housing authority?
So I just did a seminar on Harbor Light, with Harbor Light, I should say. I have the whole packet in my office. They do manage certain things. They do a lot of repurpose of buildings that are, they renovate them and then they find purpose for them, which is exactly what Memorial Hall is and needs to be. But they don't get into like the residential rental of like,
They do, but they prefer not to.
correct.
Are we looking at what's better for that for us, or what's easier to get there?
Maybe both.
What's feasible to save the building?
Yeah, Jackie?
I'm sorry, I just want to make a quick interjection that I do not think that we should be making a recommendation that the Affordable Housing Trust takes ownership or landlordship of any properties. With respect to the trust and the generosity of the CPC to date, having had this in my last community where we were property managers through the LLC that the Affordable Housing Trust members had to form to own and manage the property, I strongly advise that we should talk to all the people, and this is the purpose of the RFP, is to hear all of these things. What you're all talking about is all possible somehow with the right legal procedural votes by this policy body. But I think this is where you guys are getting very in the weeds, and I appreciate that because you care and the weeds are helpful in terms of developing the RFP. But I also think we may want to see what the market tells us about some of these properties.
Yeah,
You also
and that's
should
part
never
of-
want to be a landlord.
I don't want to be a
I will
landlord.
tell you.
Authority, that's
Well,
what they do.
but they do, but they would have to own the property.
Right.
Correct.
And so,
okay.
and it may be, I mean, I think we have to work with a Harbor Light or another group to actually issue an RFI. And I think this is the property we issue an RFI of what is possible, because I think we all have ideas. There's probably some ideas that we don't know what we don't know. And there may be a developer, a not-for-profit developer, that is going to come in and build or renovate that property into something that is going to match what this town needs, which is affordable units and something for residents and employees to be able to purchase and own. I mean, I want folks to have, and if this is about rental, very shortly, there's going to be 60-some odd units across the street that are going to be rental units.
But not really affordable.
Right.
Well,
Even the affordable
Right.
rents aren't really
I
affordable.
know,
We're
but,
not going to
but I
be
will tell
setting
you,
the
if this is
affordability.
like a rent at a true affordable rent, that's not going to work for a developer to build, and even if it's us that owns it. And
Well-
I really don't want to be a landlord.
No, yeah,
No,
and
we don't.
we
I
wouldn't
don't.
be,
I quit.
a landlord. Think about what, I think, we've all talked about, preserving the facade of that building.
Agree.
Right. And when Harbor Light came in to talk to the Affordable Housing Trust, I asked the director, is it easier to just knock the whole building down and rebuild the facade the way it looks, or to keep the facade and tear down the building and build behind it? He said, keep the facade, build behind it.
Perfect example is Denver State Hospital.
So think about this, scenario, that the town, to make it feasible, could, using CPA dollars, knock down the building, preserving the facade, put in a septic system that would be appropriate for the number of units that would be built. The town then land leases for a number of years, 20, 40 years to Harbor Light, that then builds the units. Since it has no land costs, it has no septic costs, it can build and rent at a true affordable price.
Or in a similar model, instead of the investment of tearing down and putting in a septic, the investment is the town puts the property up. and they build, and then it's on the tax rolls.
So,
But it would be still be on the tax rolls because it would be a taxable use of rental.
so if I can provide a little guidance on this as well. So, Costa, you are onto something relative to using historic preservation money through the CPA. So that is one big obstacle here, is that with the expectation that either the original facade be preserved or the new building is built in the image of the current Memorial Hall, it is pretty much making that project dead in the water, unless the town kicks in money for that specific purpose.
Or it could be kicks in dollars or sells at a discount.
One or the other, yeah. So that's the first piece, is that expectation. The second is when the town starts intertwining their own dollars into the project. So like, so for example, like building out the septic system, which would, it
Messy.
sounds like a great idea and it would be a big leg up, but would actually potentially trigger a situation where a protest could be made where the private developer building the project is now beheld to prevailing wage because the
Yeah.
town had done part of the project, which is
Or,
annoying.
or
But-
just the cost of that septic would be X
Far beyond,
percentages
yeah,
more
what
because it
the
has to be
project-
done by
right.
prevailing
Right,
wage.
so two things to keep in mind. The
Or
other,
the town just provides those dollars to Harbor Light that does it. The town
so
doesn't do
that,
it.
that's cleaner. And then, the other is, there's a bit of a scale issue with that parcel. So I know that when, Mass Development came through with Studio Luz, who was the name we were trying to remember the other day, they had landed on 6 units. And from what we've floated around to different folks and most recently Mass Housing Partnership, is that's just not enough to make it viable in this current,
I don't
construction
know
climate.
if Harbor Lights believes that, because we had actually talked about that this would, I mean, given the size and scale of that lot and the requirement of a septic, and we're not giving up the fields are gonna remain. I don't think there was a outright, like, that's too small for us. And, I mean, maybe it's not Harbor Light, maybe it's somebody else. But I go back to, I think we have to issue an RFI on this that says, this is our vision. Tell us your vision. Like, what as a not-for-profit or a developer that's not a not-for-profit developer, like, what would you envision that would allow us to reach our goal of affordable units within a certain price range, amenities that include this, the fields stay, we have an easement and parking, and you do the rest. Tell us what, like, we would have to do that, make that happen. The RFI response may come back. You provide, whether it's dollars through the Affordable Housing Trust or CPC, or a land at this value. And if we're saying a non-breaker, a deal breaker for us is the facade either has to be rebuilt or utilized, we get a response back. What I don't want to do is issue an RFP saying, because we're basically going to be in the same position we were with the police station. This is what we want, we bid it, people walk it, nobody responds, and we're right back at start.
Yeah, too many obstacles. So, Mass Housing Partnership, we have applied with them for technical assistance to put together an RFI for that exact purpose. And we have a follow-up meeting with them, next week. So we'll see.
I don't think there's any private developer that would buy that at any price without some kind of buy-in from one of those organizations, that it's not economically feasible.
No, I agree.
So, so that's the update for now anyway. I wanted to get the churn going again on those properties. So, I got some good direction. We'll move on some of those and, we'll get back in the practice of doing regular updates just to keep it moving. Because especially once these projects really drop off, as I mentioned, the grounds of this building are a project in and of itself that we're gonna have to see through to the end of the summer, but I wanna make sure that we keep marching on these things because, before we know it, they're gonna be a year. I don't wanna be like, oh, a year has passed and we haven't done it.
So what's the consensus on Old Town Hall, the old senior center? Did we come to any consensus on that?
I think we have to hear definitively
Yes.
from the
Historic.
that they don't see a path forward.
Right.
And then if there is zero path forward there, then my recommendation, my vote is we sell the property.
With a plan for moving the tramp house.
Yes, absolutely.
We
And I don't know
have-
if that means the
we
tramp
have
house gets moved here or another location.
Would you like me to invite them to an upcoming meeting?
I think we have to hear, before they come to the meeting, is do they actually have a clear pathway to sustainability? And there has to be an understanding is, it can't be that they're gonna move in and we're gonna put hundreds of thousands of dollars into that building. For me, that's a non-starter. I hated the money that we had to put into it in the last several years, that we had no choice, because I understand why we did it, but it was bad money after good or good money after bad. I don't want to spend any more money at that facility. Great memories there, it served the town well. That's my belief. What I don't want to come in and have to have a discussion of, we can make this work, but it has to be for $1. It has to be, you're paying some of our utilities, you're gonna have to plow there, and you're gonna have to pay for the septic, the retaining wall, and some of the updates on utilities.
When I last spoke to one of their members, it seemed like they had come to the realization that it wasn't feasible. So I'll just have them confirm that, and if they're all in agreement on that, then I'll invite them in and they can express that, and then we can talk about maybe what to do
Yeah,
from there.
and it's not the Historical Society by itself, for that property to sort of stay as it is. The Historical Society would have to partner with other nonprofits, to share, the space and to share, the expenses of maintaining that property.
And that's
too big
what we
just for
had
them.
talked to them about, so that they could
But
just
do
be
they have the
independent.
do they have the capacity to now be a sub-landlord?
I don't think they have the appetite to
Yeah.
have that building.
So, without that, the town keeping it and doing what with it, except, the retaining wall needs work, the roof needs work, this needs work. So it's, if the,
And have we come to a final number yet of the carrying costs of all of these buildings? If we don't do anything for the next 365 days, what is the carrying cost for utilities? Because we have to keep the heat on, we have to keep the electricity on.
That's what was built into the capital plan.
Yeah, but what is what I'd like to be able to see is the carrying cost for the police station is X amount a year. The carrying cost for the Old Town Hall is Y a year, for Memorial Hall is Z a year. And I assume we have some insurance on Locust Street right now. But what is the carrying cost on that? And quite honestly, same thing for the fire department, but I think we've got a plan there that we're headed towards.
and speaking of the fire department, do we have a timeline for when we will know what the demolition costs are?
So once the funding goes through for this upcoming capital plan, we'll engage an LSP to go through and form some type of hot list to see what's in there for hazardous materials. That's gonna partly inform what process they're gonna have to go through from a demolition perspective. It'll inform if they can just push it into a hole or if they have to go through and kind of do it piece by piece, basically, and one costs more than the other.
And then we would have to find the money to do that.
Correct, yes.
Maybe, early, but for the town meeting next year, 27, have those costs identified, and as well as some costs for designing the reuse of that property. And it could conceivably fall into the CPC funding.
Yep.
Because on the other side, the former Lois Lane house was bought, demolished, and and the area renovated with CPC.
A new park. right, is an allowable expense.
So
So,
this would be more of an urban open space because it would incorporate a courtyard, but. So the fire department isn't coming down in the next year.
No, no. But a plan will be formalized
Yeah.
before the end of the year.
yeah,
Do you want that for the question?
what is it?
The cost to run the buildings for each year as mothball status?
Oh, could you read through them?
Yeah. So Brian, to your question, this is for anyone that wants to look at this. If you go in the capital budget, there's the article for the legacy buildings, and so that's this spreadsheet's right in there. For 38 Maple Street, for minimum code and mothballing, we've estimated 17,000. For 4 Lake Street, 28,300.
How much?
28,300
Okay.
for 4 Lake. For 48 South Main, 23,500. And
That
for
includes insurance.
no,
Okay.
this is NFPA minimum standards, energy and water for minimum protection, snow removal for safety, annual occupancy inspection, preventative maintenance for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and septic grease trap maintenance. This is just keeping them safe and protected.
And then how much is the police station?
26,400.
So we're talking, it's about 100,000 a year, not including insurance.
Not including insurance.
Yeah.
Just, and that's not to have them be occupied, that's just to keep them safe and protected as an asset we own.
Electricity, water, because.
Minimum septic, minimum mechanical, electrical, plumbing, snow removal, fire safety.
Okay. Well, I think you got a little bit more direction here. I think we can probably strike much sooner than later on the police station. And then I think we've got some pathways to getting to a decision on Old Town Hall. I think post-town meeting on understanding costs around the fire department, and then Memorial Hall is a much longer discussion for another time.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to move to last on the agenda. We are going to enter executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect of collective bargaining, which is IAFF Local 3097, Fire Department, and we will not be re-entering open session, public session. So I would entertain a motion to enter executive session. There's a motion, is there a second? I'd ask our clerk to take the roll.
Rick,
Yes.
Costa,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
and I am a yes.
Okay, just before we close for executive session, we will be meeting next Tuesday, March 24th at 5 PM in this room as a joint meeting with the Finance Committee, where we will be finalizing the fiscal year budget. April 7th and the April 21st, we will also be meeting in, as a board on those dates. And on the 7th, we will be reading the warrant.
On the 24th, are we meeting at 5 or 6, the FinCom?
I think it's 6,
We said
isn't it?
6.
Oh, I'm
'cause the
sorry,
FinCom's
6
normally
o'clock on the
7.
next Tuesday?
6 PM, not 5 PM. Okay. But on the 7th and the 21st, we will be
At
back
5.
for full meetings of the Select Board at 5 PM. And I would ask, just before we go into executive session, is there anything that board members had for announcements or any other items?
Just anyone that's interested, come to our new COA. Aniela is eager to greet new faces and reacquaint with people that haven't come to the new facility yet.
Great.
And
Okay.
if there are any philanthropists in town that wish to step forward and purchase 38 Maple Street and create the Middleton Museum, put it out there.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, we are entering executive session, and thank you. We can up and go into that room.